Methods of separating substances. Learning about separation of substances, sedimentation, decantation, filtration, evaporation. A substance is a mixture. We find it to be in solid, a liquid, or a gas. Some examples of mixture are as follows. Air is a mixture of oxygen, nitrogen, carbon dioxide, water vapor, and other gases. When bottle of perfume is opened, the fragrance spread all around. We cannot see the particles of the perfume, but the spreading fragrance tells us that its particles are spreading the surrounded air. Sedimentation, decantation, and filtration. Sedimentation is the process by which solids that sink in a liquid are allowed to settle down in the liquid. When the heavier component in a mixture settles after water is added to it, the process is called sedimentation. When the water, along with the dust, is removed, the process is called decantation. Let us find a few other mixtures that can be separated through sedimentation and decantation. The same principle is used for separating a mixture of two liquids that do not mix with each other. For example, oil and water from their mixture can be separated by this process. If a mixture of such liquids is allowed to stand for some time, they form two separate layers. The component that forms the top layer can then be separated by decantation. Sedimentation cannot remove very fine particles of the solid. Filtration is used to remove fine particles. In laboratory, filtration is done with a special type of paper called filter paper. It has very fine holes in it. The liquid can pass through the holes, but the solids are retained on top. The liquid that passes through the filter paper is called filtrate. The solids retained are called residue. This process is called filtration. Fruits and vegetable juices are usually filtered before drinking to separate the seeds and solid particles of pulp. The method of filtration is also used in the process of preparing cottage cheese, that is paneer, in our homes. You might have seen that for making paneer, a few drops of lemon juice are added to milk as it boils. This gives a mixture of particles of solid paneer and a liquid. The paneer is then separated by filtering the mixture through a fine cloth or a strainer. Evaporation. Evaporation is the process by which we can separate soluble solids from a liquid-solid mixture. When we leave our wet clothes out in the sun, water evaporates with the heat of the sun and we get dry clothes. If we leave seawater out of the sun, the water evaporates and the common salt is actually prepared from seawater by evaporation. Activity. Heat a beaker containing some water. Allow the water to boil. If we continue heating, the water turns into the steam and disappears completely. Now, add 2 spoons of salt in water in another beaker and stir it well. Heat the beaker containing the salt water. Let the water boil away. What is left in the beaker? Only salt. In this activity, we use the process of evaporation to separate a mixture of water and salt. The process of conversion of water into its vapor is called evaporation. The process of evaporation takes place continuously wherever water is present. Where do you think salt come from? Seawater contains many salts mixed in it. One of these salts is the common salt. When seawater is allowed to stand in a shallow pit, water gets heated by sunlight and slowly turns into water vapor through evaporation. In a few days, the water evaporates completely, leaving behind the solid salts. Common salt is then obtained from this mixture of salts by further purification. Use of more than one method of separation. We have studied some methods for separation of substances from their mixtures. Often one method is not sufficient to separate the different substances present in a mixture. In such a situation, we need to use more than one of these methods. Activity. How will we separate a mixture of sand and salt? Take a mixture of sand and salt. Keep this mixture in a beaker and add some water to this. Leave the beaker aside for some time. We see the sand settling down at the bottom. The sand can be separated by decantation or filtration. What does the decanted liquid contain? This water contains the salt which was there in the mixture at the beginning. Now, we need to separate salt and water from the decanted liquid. Transfer this liquid to a kettle and close its lid. Heat the kettle for some time. We see steam coming out from the spout of the kettle. Take a metal plate with some ice on it. Hold the plate just above the spout of the kettle. Let all the water in the kettle boil off. When the steam comes in contact with the metal plate cooled with ice, it condenses and forms liquid water. The water drops that you observed falling from the plate were due to condensation of steam. The process of conversion of water vapor into its liquid form is called condensation. After all the water has evaporated, salt is left in the kettle. We have thus separated salt, sand and water using the process of decantation, filtration, evaporation and condensation. Using the magnetic property. Magnetism can be used to separate magnetic and non-magnetic substances from a mixture. Iron, cobalt and nickel are magnetic substances. Summary. Filtration can be used to separate components of a mixture of an insoluble solid and a liquid. Evaporation is the process in which a liquid gets converted into its vapor. Evaporation can be used to separate a solid dissolved in a liquid. Substances are separated from their mixtures using the differences in their properties by methods such as picking, winnowing, sifting, sieving, filtering, settling, sublimating, and magnetic attraction. So students, that is all in this lesson. Have fun and keep learning.